Right. So
let's do it, man.
So which one do you want to look at?
String builder, dictionary.
String builder. So let's do this one then first. This one we need to
do.
We should start with the ones that have the greatest number of comments.
Oh no, then we'll never get anything done.
I see 117. Anyone keep 117?
No, I don't want to go into that one. We'll talk about that now.
It's a good idea for a plugin for GitHub. Once there are more than 100 comments, the issue is closed automatically.
Are we live?
Yeah, we are.
Oh, really?
So, text writers without
No Steve today?
I don't think he's on, no. I think he's on vacation.
Communicated earlier.
We can do this slide already, but
Did we? I don't know.
Well, we made the scenarios. We made the fast enumerator.
oh, that's it.
But so theoretically, the reason we would want TextWriter to take a string builder is so that it can be implemented using the fast enumerator.
So what does that mean? We would probably make it virtual, right?
I would remember that.
Steve says he's going to join. If there's anything to do with screenwriters and virtual, he's a helpful man. Hi, Steve.
There's nothing virtual. There's nothing virtual here.
No, but
It should probably be both virtual and public, right?
Well, why is there any reason that you couldn't put the same instance method on stringbuilder.write to TextWriter?
Sure, but then the thing is you cannot actually override the behavior.
And that, and also you have enough ability to make it performant without being able to get the inside there.
And
the whole point would be that, if you put it on string builder, right, the best the string builder could do is basically construct a string and call the TextWriter.write.
No. I mean,
right?
so there's if stringbuilder already has the ability to expose a read-understand chart, and TextWriter has the API that takes a read-understand chart.
It doesn't have the way to expose the kind of chart in the moment.
Didn't we just add one?
Here,
No, that was
this is the second paragraph right here.
Oh, yeah, a series of them. Yeah, sorry, I think you mean it's that.
Yeah. But I would say that imagine that somebody has, a text writer and concept .write.
Right.
If they don't see string builder overall, I can imagine they do string builder that do strings.
That's what they would see in the extension.
Well, you're saying there would still be an extension of text writer?
Sorry, I'm like that wasn't the word, but that's not a
I see what you're saying. So if you were to expose it on string builder, then effectively the implementation of that would call the TextWriter.write method that takes a read-only span of char.
But what's it basically, it would be different. Like, you write everything calling TextWriter.write API.
Right.
But if you want to write the text and use string builder, then you use different API. People will not notice that and they will be creating strings.
You're saying effectively it doesn't have an overload people don't.
Is there any disadvantage to having a TextWriter? Like, if it's not generic, it isn't below the code.
I mean, TextWriter already has a gazillion methods. I don't think
from my perspective, there are very few places, in fact I'm having trouble thinking of any outside of string builder that accept a string builder. So, I mean, the pattern has always been string builder, exposes its data and you can get its data, or string builder has a copy to, or something like that. This would be the first, or at least one of the first places where we've said, you can actually pass string builders to other APIs. And once we open that door, where does it stop? Everything that takes a string also takes a string builder?
So one thing...
That's definitely not that, because...
I mean, for it to work, everything that needs a string today would have to at least accept read-only span of char, right? I mean, at least internally, in order for that to be...
Arguably, the packing that people haven't accepted string builders has led us to this world where there's lots of strings being created. So
Right.
really good packing.
Well, so one thing that we could do instead is, if there's a way to get a collection of memory of char from string builder, which I think now there is, because that's the API that we did last week, then we could add a write method that takes IN module of memory of char. it would be more general purpose full index string builder, and if you have a collection of strings, you could use it. Use the API too, instead of.
If you had an enumerable span of char, would that work? Would you
That was your argument.
Span cannot be generic argument. But memory of key can be, so memory of char. And string builder internally doesn't store spans, so that's not actually a problem for it.
Then we go back to your argument though that people would hit off and not see anything that apparently fits the string builder.
Well, you can pass a string builder into a text writer right now. I believe it just calls the object.
Yeah, which causes an allocation.
Which causes an allocation. And if you take enumerable of,
Sorry, what it calls the what?
I believe there's a right object overload on text writer. I should check that for I believe this.
And what does it do inside right Oh, so what? If we get like a fob and it just has like system.fob and it likes that to the most people don't.
I mean, let me check that.
It's especially valuable for string builder.
Yeah.
Well, at least the string builder does what you expect, even though it's in performance. It's not writing the name of the type.
Yep, it'll call into, it will ask if it's an I-formatable, and if so, it will.
So what you want is an I text writer formatable.
So this is a nice effect. If anyone's doing that today, their program is working, but it's very inefficient. As soon as you add this, the recompile will get more efficient. Yeah. I like that. It reminds me of string.
You wouldn't even need to, I mean, you could also just put this into the implementation of write. I mean, I'm not saying we should, but you could add another if to write. If value is string builder, then whatever, and they wouldn't even need to recompile.
Yeah, I think many people today pass string builders to write the text object without probably even thinking about it, because it just calls to string. So we would get that for free, actually.
But I mean, at that point, you may as well not stuck with your string builder and just like use that I text writer formatable.
Because, yeah, the problem would be if we special cases when text writer write of object, then if you overrode that, you've lost the fix.
Right. Yeah. That's true.
So, what's that?
There's also no write async that takes an object, as far as I can see.
Doesn't seem like it.
Increasing performance without requiring a compile. So recompile is not something I've ever heard us say that.
Sorry, say again?
Right. Like, I haven't heard us in this room care that we want to increase performance without requiring a compile. We like this recompile.
So what's that string builder API that we added last week?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah, I do actually. I just looked it up. There was this one here.
So you get chunks enumerator gives you call get chunks, it gives you back an enumerator.
Oh, but it's a struct enumerator, correct?
Yeah, it doesn't implement enumerable, so you
So
can't
it
just call
doesn't implement. Basically, string builder does not implement enumerable of read-only memory of char. Therefore, if we added a write API that takes it, then it wouldn't work either. We could add. Why did we not add make string builder enumerable?
Because we couldn't agree on what it should be enumerable of. Should it be enumerable of characters? Should it be enumerable of...
Read-only memory of char.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
there are multiple obvious answers.
No, we only have enumerator that gives you read-only memory of char.
No, we don't have an enumerator that gives you read-only memory of char. We have one that gives you chunks. I mean, you can enumerate those
I
chunks.
know, that's what I'm saying.
I'm just like, that's...
The question, Jeremy, is why didn't the chunk enumerator implement enumerable of, or enumerator or whatever?
Right.
It would have to be a moderately smart enumerator because it would have to remember where the chunk was that it was reading from and the index.
Can we make that change from?
Yeah, I don't know, I don't remember, I think we discussed making chunk enumerator be enumerable instead of just the enumerator pattern, but then I think we decided that the only uses we were going to have of it would want the struct version and we didn't want to introduce the boxing.
That
Right.
and also it's kind of confusing because people won't know what it is before
Right.
specifically get it.
Right, well but that would be why we didn't make string builder enumerable, but we could make chunk enumerator be enumerable.
Yeah. No, then it has the discoverability issue. I want to write a string builder to text writer. I have to know to call text writer that write string builder does get chunks.
Right.
But maybe it's, I don't know.
Also, with respect to Steve's original assertion, there's only four types that take a string builder today. String writer, something XML serialization, XML writer, and something system builder.
But I would say this is a good point to bring up, but I don't see an issue with it. Like, yeah, we don't have APIs. But
I agree.
It seems weird that string writer would take one, but we didn't make text writer take one.
Right.
Because that means that we introduced the new method on string writer instead of on base class.
I think all this is explained if you observe that for the last 15 years, the only output of string builder that we cared about was a string.
Right.
Like no one has ever, I know it's pretty cool to do anything.
well, string builder used to be implemented differently than it's today.
Yeah,
So it used to be a single contiguous buffer,
for the list.
which kind of creating a string is not as impactful and costly.
No, it still allocates this.
Yeah, allocates one string and then copies.
So it's the same allocation.
String writer writes to a string.
Just the copy gets a little bit more interesting, but that's pretty much it.
Now it's kind of, it's a more complicated data structure.
Also, just to clarify the comment about string writer, so string writer doesn't have a write method that takes a string builder. String writer is a text writer that supports writing to a string builder.
That's right.
So you construct a string writer around a string builder, half of the things that take a text writer, and all that stuff ends up in the string builder.
Yeah,
So in fact, if we would go on the text writer base and I add a write method that takes a string builder, even the string text writer could be more efficient because it would basically special case that and just do a smart copy between the two string builders. So if we add a base method to text writer, write, that takes a string builder, we can specially the base implementation would just effectively walk the string builder and call write on the read-only span, right? And then on string text writer, we can special case that and say, oh, we know that both the receiver and the destination are text writer, are string builders.
Yep.
So we can just directly copy the buffers internally, probably.
Yeah,
Even-
I think
even
string
better.
builder would run.
Yeah, something like that.
What about elevating get string builder up to text writer?
Git string builder is the
That
Give me
doesn't
the
really
internal
make
buffer.
that do on stream writer.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, that only works when the destination is a string builder, right?
Yeah.
Maybe well
because
defined.
Git string builder returns where
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I mean, the one thing that I would say is like write that takes an object is pretty popular. It's like depending on what you're looking at, like 20 to 30% calls. It's unclear to me, like what data types they're passing, right? I mean, probably most people pass primitives, but I mean, a pretty good chunk of them are probably going to the string builders today already.
So it's pretty juicy.
I have no idea what
they're
they're. Yeah.
I mean, there are overlays for passing all the primitives in directly.
Right.
So I don't know if I agree that people are passing primitives out.
Well, I mean, like, if you have a boxed instance, right, which in many cases you end up having, right, you don't have to do the if this is an int call the write with an int, right? Yeah, I think I don't know, like, is there any downside of exposing it on string on text writer? I mean, like, it seems to be in line with the current overloads. I get Steven's argument of like where do we draw the line, but it seems like on the core I/O types, special casing string builders seems somewhat in line with the work of like us trying to avoid redundant copies.
I mean, honestly, so not to like dismiss completely the concept that you have, but I like the idea of an idea like this. To me, the only interesting decision here is: do we expose write that takes string builder, or we expose write that takes enumeration of memory of child, and then make basically string builder implement enumeration of child.
Well, if you had an enumerable with memory of char, you could just loop it itself, because, I mean, that's a fairly straightforward mechanism. I think the issue in play here is if you have a string builder, you don't know that you can get an enumeration of the chunks directly. That API's kind of
Well, you could loop manually, but people don't want to do it.
well, loop manually over what?
Well, over this
If you add an overload that takes a string builder, everything just works, and many people we can try and get it perfect.
Same
If you add an
way.
overload that takes that, everyone has to call get enumerator.
nobody has to call get enumerator. String
But-
builder will implement enumerable of memory of child.
Oh, I see. So it's right. We decided not to do that.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why we did this. I think there was some like it was unclear. I think to us what the enumerable of string builder should be, right? Because I mean, like the most logical one would be off char, right? Because that's kind of what you expect.
Yeah, because when you enumerate a string, that's what you get.
This is why we.
It's a bit weird to enumerate a string builder and get back.
I can't remember what it was, but we discussed it at length, and it may have been that it felt too weird to have an enumerator of.
I mean, if we want to make string builder be an enumerable real and memory char, then maybe we just also make it be enumerable char at the same time. And
Yeah, but that
we
doesn't
just write
except that doesn't solve the problem. Right? But now if
Well-
you add the text enumerable of
Because
T,
if-
then which one do you get?
because it would only one of those interfaces would have a right destination on text writer, so it would say, wait, one of the interfaces hits this, that's better than object, I'll use that one. Like it would know which way to convert it.
But if you have both, it's ambiguous. And if you have an enumerable of T, then it's basically you get to specify which T you want. So I mean, like it's a bit weird to have both at the same time.
I think the enumerable of memory char is kind of like plumbing rather than forcing. Right? It's something that's quite special, and you either need to have a specialized knowledge if you want it, or we use it as underlying implementation without gluing together things like that. I think we don't have a great reason to explode it in everyone's face.
It feels like an implementation detail and not an API.
The other question is like, how many times would you have an enumerable of read-only memory of char that would not be a string builder? Like, what other implementations do you conceive of that deals with chunks of strings?
Well, I don't like maybe.
Yeah.
Read-only memory. Read-only SQL.
Everybody
We can come back
would
here
that
and
also
have
be
another debate.
enumerable? I hope not. It would be.
Quick stop, and there will be no disadvantage to adding a second enumerable.
What was that? That was like a bathroom.
So anyway, if people feel that just adding overloads for string builder is better than Untitled.
It's probably the most straightforward to be honest.
We can always come back and add another one.
Would we also add, let's say we did that, would we also add like write async, write line, and so on, those utility methods?
I think write line seems weird.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's a short. The right line is, I don't know.
Write line of string builder?
Do we already have parity for every single write to write line? Yes,
Sort
then
of.
yes,
Between
it's right.
write and write line, it looks like we generally have parity. Write async has a very small number of overloads.
So I would say if we have parity for the right line, the main benefit of just adding it is that we keep the parity.
Yeah, looking at it, it seems like we have perfect parity actually.
Yeah. Do you know why we don't have perfect parity with
Yep.
write async?
Because we don't want to have it for individual values. They only take things like, funny enough, there's one that takes char, which I find really weird, but we have char array, read-only memory of char, and string. So we only have the ones that are somewhat
Long.
bulky.
Well, string builder is long.
Except I don't know why we have write line async of char. I mean, that's the opposite of, like, who has that?
And only one of the overloads of write async takes it. Sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know why we have that
You know,
API.
we should when we add APIs, we should have analyzers for like future additions to string builder. Here's
Yeah.
an analyzer.
Yeah.
If you write the method right, you also need to have a method right line.
The automated
I have another question, Stephen, maybe
Yes.
the write on text writer that takes a string allocates an array. Why is that?
Because we had the one that took an array first.
Alright?
Pardon? The text writer dot write that takes a string allocates an array.
Probably because it needs to call into the only virtual method that is available for overload.
Right, but there must be a way, if that wasn't overloaded, to use the string directly.
Actually, it's been in the message going on, so I don't know.
Somebody
I mean, my
seems-
assumption is that this was added after the write array one was added, and so it was just delegating to the one that already existed. But I mean, everything that we ship already, everything that we ship overrides this.
just as a general law, would it be considered a non-breaking change to change that to call a different virtual method that was more efficient? Because that could potentially be breaking if someone was overriding one and not the other. Would you consider that breaking?
Yes.
Which one would it call that's more efficient?
I didn't look. I'm just asking that again.
If the only thing that you overwrote was the right to the character array, everything would be working right now, because the object one will call the string one, the string one will call the
So we
character
consider
array.
that a breaking change. We wouldn't do.
You would completely break anybody who had overwritten the thing. All of a sudden, their code will run.
to override everything.
Yeah. Well, we need to, like, what API on a text writer is actually abstract? Is it just char and char array?
I don't think there's any abstract myself.
Or there has to be an abstract of it somewhere.
Nope. You can mark a type abstract and not have any abstract on
The
this.
encoding vector is the only one.
Like, what does that even mean to instantiate a text writer and not override everything?
No, the text writer itself is marked as abstract, but it doesn't require you to have any abstract numbers. You can mark a type as abstract and say, is it?
Everything ends up calling down to write char, which is empty.
Oh,
Okay,
So
so
no off.
oh, empty not
Empty
abstract.
correct.
Okay.
interesting. Encoding is abstract.
So why would the async method return task and not
Oh, and
char?
write. I think write detects the chars. Yeah.
Probably because every other async method returns regular text.
Is there how often is it synchronous?
How often
Because
is it
if you
text writer?
implement your own one,
How
the
often
wraps-
is it a network?
Yeah, if it basically you implement text writer that wraps, let's say an array, it would be beneficial to return value task. But I agree that it's kind of weird that all of them return task and one will return value task.
Especially for things like string builder, where you actually have a much higher chance of hitting the method.
Maybe we should add write value, I think.
Yeah, we only have
That's not
40 methods on that type. Let's add another set of 40 that is.
Well, I
We
mean,
have 40 async methods, we only have 3.
we have like 3 methods that each have like 40 overloads.
Right. Fair
The async ones, you just said that.
You have an allocation anyway. When you let's say that you have write async string builder, right? You're going to have an allocation inside of that method.
No.
You will, because the enumerator on string builder is a struct, which means it has to be boxed across an async method.
No, because the method will not be async. It just has async signature, but I implemented it on let's say like I'm writing to memory stream. It's gonna be all synchronous.
Yeah, that'll be synchronous.
Yeah. Then I won't be.
But
putting
you'll
an
return a singleton completed task, so you don't have an allocation at all.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, just because you have one allocation doesn't mean you should have fewer allocations.
And by the way, I will jump.
Yeah. But I think that
we
one-
don't want to add some value.
So are we okay with that signature then? They're all virtual. They have write line, and write async.
Why wouldn't you have write line async?
Because I did not consider it.
Do we have the right line async for others?
Yes. Good catch. But again, write line async, just like write async, has a limited set of overloads, unlike write and write line, which have.
Yeah, just for the long buffer
Yeah.
space.
Yeah.
And chart.
And char because
Probably because we deferred to that one, because that was the
All right. So then let's go all the way to the bottom. Paste this guy in. Comment.
You're not going to get a default value for this cancellation function?
Actually, that's a good point. Yeah, I think we've done this now, didn't we?
I don't know.
No, I
Yes,
think
it
we
does
did.
have a
We did.
default.
We did. I think we should do that.
And before we just, before we move on from this, we do know that people do pass string builders to write today. Is that the thing?
We don't, but I think given that it accepts object. I've done it myself, so I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. I don't know how many. It could be 5% and less, right? I don't
If they're
know.
all doing two string and then calling the string one, that's pretty bad.
we can't fix that.
Yeah.
No, I think the point is if we add this overload, we should probably special case the existing one that takes object, or we should at least consider it.
Well, I think Steve's just asking for evidence that this is actually an issue today.
We should. Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know how.
We're adding something. These types have been around since the beginning of .NET, 17 years ago, and we're adding it now. I just want to make sure that it's actually valuable.
That doesn't make sense to me, is that correct?
What?
Special case an option, why wouldn't it just go to string level?
Because then you just call it toString. Like it's much more efficient to say if you're a string builder, great, call the other one that takes a string builder, because then you don't actually end up calling toString.
Right.
So you avoid the round tripping the whole
No, I understand that,
contents
but
of the string builder through a
Okay,
string.
so, no, I'm not saying how that helps. If you're saying string builder dot toString, it's still going to say string builder dot toString and with that overlay.
No. Like imagine you have you have a box. You have a variable of type object. It happens to point to a string builder.
Yeah.
If I now call TechWriter.write, it will pick the one that takes object. Object by default will probably just say toString. Now we end up toString on the.
I think that people have string builders doing objects. How do they get from there?
So what I have done many times when I wrap string builders is, depending on what the input data is, in many cases, you basically force everything to one thing because it's much less code to type, and then you just round trip it from
So if
there.
I have
So there are a bunch of box values.
I've written a method called decorative method,
Yep.
and it takes an object,
Right.
and then it calls write.
Right. And then you just say, yep, whatever things write support, you can now do.
Passive person,
Yep.
builder.
Yep.
Okay.
So, but going back to this question about scenarios, doesn't Vance list scenarios in the top of the system?
I think you did.
I think the scenarios weren't based on code that we actually saw.
Yeah, you said it.
I think that, I still don't see how that helps you with string builder dot toString though.
If you've called toString, it doesn't.
Yeah, so if I write string builder dot toString, this
Yeah.
doesn't have it all.
Right.
Which
That's
is what I
right.
thought your comment said.
No.
There you go. Okay, that's fine.
But you
But
want-
it is a
This is
comment
what write will do
as
when you basically write. I think what it does right now, I believe, it checks for a bunch of known types, dispatches to the other overloads, and then the general catch all is basically, yep, just call toString on that
No,
object
that's
and
fine.
then write.
That's what you're
If it's not
I
now.
just misunderstood the comment. So it's fine.
The only thing it checks is, are you iFormatable?
It doesn't actually do any more than that. Maybe it should actually.
What does it do?
It just does it formatable toString, otherwise toString.
Majority of the text are already just overloads, so they just call.
Well, I think it's a scenario where somebody
Fascinating.
says, put something in for an object and then cast it, which I'm not convinced, but
Maybe
I'm
we
sure
should.
it's happened. Sure it's happened.
But
A few months will be back here debating an I text writing.
I mean, everything else is just calling toString anyway, which is kind of, yeah. Given that the default implementation of the string one is then to call toChar array, if you call write with an int,
Sorry, but
it
it's
does
not my fault.
toString toChar array of the int. Yeah, because like here, it looks like the write and boolean should be efficient, but it's gonna call toChar array on each of the strings in the default implementation.
It would be nice if.
Not that we can change it now.
We have all this crazy telemetry on NuGet. It would be nice if I could write log analyzer and say how many people are doing toString on a single approximately write.
You know what I actually see people doing a lot? I'm just browsing through this one right now. What I see people doing a lot is text writer write line string.format something. It seems like there might be a use case as a separate discussion for a write overload that takes a format of the string.
It exists.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't see that.
I just write string format comma obj arg0, another one comma obj arg1 comma like.
Oh no,
And
no, I
then-
meant formatable string. But, yeah.
What's the thing?
Oh, the dollar sign thingy.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because then everything just works as you expect. But I mean, at this point, we might be talking about overloads.
Yeah,
it's
well,
a separate discussion.
And anybody who's calling textwriter.write or string.format, whatever, could remove the word string.format and let us do
I
it.
don't follow the formatable string thing. Like if I do $blah, the compiler generates code that does the string format, and then it calls the function with a string. So how would you help with that?
It's
Not
not
if it takes
actually what it
a
does.
formatable string. There's a type. What it actually produces is a type called formatable string,
Okay.
which has an implicit conversion to string, which calls toString.
I see. I didn't know.
So if you take a formatable
Right.
string,
If you have an API that takes a string and you pass a dollar sign colon to it,
Right.
it'll generate a string. It'll generate a string format.
it won't give you the formatable string by preference.
I believe the string.
I don't know if it'll prefer the, well, actually, no, I don't remember. I think it actually preferred the string. I think that was an issue.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right.
I know you can save it as the formatable string.
You definitely can.
But
formatable string is abstract.
Yes, the
Yeah,
compiler
you're not allowed to
creates
make
a
one.
concrete, a concrete implementation.
The compiler is allowed to ignore the fact that it's that abstract and just write down the IL.
Well, there's a
Because I was looking at the IL, that's why maybe I get confused.
there's a concrete implementation somewhere.
Yeah, there's a type called formatable string factory,
Yeah.
which has a create method that creates, we have like a, I think it's called concrete formatable string or something.
I see.
Yeah, we are not just as bad as just emitting the IL for
Okay.
instantiating an
As usual,
abstract
we'll take
type.
one that's straightforward and spend 40 minutes looking at it.
Yep. Well, that's what you get for non-trivial stuff. So, any other thing? Otherwise, we just leave this issue as is.
Non-trivial stuff we're going to spend 20 minutes on. Trivial stuff is 40 minutes.
So this is actually going to, for people, there's many people that will need to change their things to this board.
No.
Where we want it
Not necessarily. I mean, like if
to. So everybody who's passed string builder got two string, which is,
everybody who just
And
passed
the
string builder
naive-
today, they would just recompile and will get the
if they
benefit.
just pass a string builder.
Yeah. Everybody who
Is passing
right
string
now
builder got two
passes,
string.
everybody who does two string today, they will just
Not
have to change their code.
remove it,
Yes.
okay,
We
that's
could,
fine.
I mean, we
Should
could
talk about it
separately,
when we do it.
yeah, we could separately have
Do
like
an
a code
analysis.
analysis video.
Well, and
Yeah.
if we specialize the method that takes software, they don't even put it in that.
Correct.
They just put it in
No, but if they call dot two string, then they need to.
I
they
just
need to-
think, I
said that
think an
for
analysis
the-
makes sense on it, that's all.
Sorry,
That's it.
I'm still missing something. I know you explained it. How is it helpful to specialize within right object? That's what that means.
It takes object.
If your runtime, for
the method
example,
would say-
then the only API will be the right object one. You'd already be calling right object, and special casing it would delegate to the right string builder.
Ah.
Or if you have typed as object, then it would call the right object
So
and you delegate.
your library's already been compiled to point to right object.
Yeah, I get it,
Got
yeah.
got it. Okay, so
Yeah,
you go
no,
ahead.
it's, yeah.
Got
Oh,
it.
just barely, just by that man.
All right. Next one. Add dictionary.
So, sorry. So, as
No.
you know, to the previous one, whoever implements it will also specialize. Right?
did,
about-
he did.
That's the last sentence.
You did, that's fine. You didn't have to go back. I was just asking.
Okay, so this one came up in one of Fenn's emails, I think. And I'm pretty sure that's what it was. And then it occurs to me that it's actually super inefficient and cumbersome right now to remove everything from a predicate, matching predicate from the dictionary. We can actually do it super efficiently within dictionary and in one line with few allocations and lower order magnitude. And I discovered this something very similar is already on several other sections we have. And then you see there, it's basically 10 lines. The rename link is several lines, and then it does an allocation behind the scenes. Plus, there's a get hash code for every single thing in the dictionary. We can avoid all of that and do it in one line if we just do a simple thing in dictionary. There's my new implementation.
Because the first part of it is because you can't use it for dictionary.
Right, whereas the dictionary you get to the buckets and sequences still do safe for that.
Yeah.
And then further down, I show the existing precedent.
Sorry, I missed this. Why is it not efficient today to just remove one?
So here's the problem, right? So imagine you have items in the dictionary. Based on the value you decide, or based on the key or the value you try to decide whether you should remove that entry from the list. If you just for each the dictionary, in the body of the for each, you're not allowed to call remove because that would mutate the dictionary. So you have to somehow remember which keys you want to remove. You have to write them somewhere. So you have to do a first pass to record all the things you want to remove, and then do a second pass where you actually do it. That's why it's inefficient.
If you basically have the keys that you want to remove, it's equal, yeah.
Correct.
Because
If you
basically,
already
okay, so it's for the case when you
No.
don't know the keys.
No, that's not true, because if you have all the keys, you still have to get hash code on each of them. Whereas this one, there's no
That's
hash
also
codes involved whatsoever. It just goes
Okay,
through the
sure.
array, but remove.
I like the
Doesn't
sound
make a
effect.
sound,
Like,
but-
yeah.
You get like soundboard factory up here.
It occurred to me that we could make the enumerator on dictionary throw slightly less often, like we remove something, but it was higher up, I'd already enumerated to that. It didn't do that, but you could.
I mean, it seems like there's a good scenario for this. Would this be called remove where?
Well, I had it called something else, and then I realized I had it remove all.
Oh, okay.
How do you call it? Something like that, and then remove all this existing to go further down.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a similar discussion before that we want to avoid the double hashing. Like, wasn't there like a try?
No, that's different. The try get is yes, exactly when you want to check whether something's there, and if so, remove it. So you have to hash and look up twice. This is avoiding doing hashing, but otherwise you don't have anything wrong.
So one immediate comment is that I know that the predicate of two delegate type exists, but we use it almost nowhere.
Right. Well, scroll down. We use it in the analogous API for the but you're right. Yes, because initially I had like a funk or something. I don't know. When I saw this.
No, I mean like the double hashing. We already said we care about double hashing because we added things like try add. But we basically say like because
double hashing is the least of the problem. The biggest problem
is the double allocation. Yeah, no, I agree.
The biggest problem is the code you write.
The biggest problem is the code you write.
Okay,
that stuff stinks. I've done it more than once.
Right.
It's
weird to write.
We love our customers.
To be fair, in Link it's not horrible, right? If you give up on perf, like it's pretty straightforward to write.
It's still,
Like you can't avoid the comparison.
Yeah, but
It's
it
like
could be like that.
but it could be simple. It could be a simple another model.
And also, I put one there that predicate takes key value.
Yeah.
But I don't know what. I mean, that seems reasonable and trivial. So I include that.
Well, so
Why would we not
it's
do that?
so trigger. I can imagine implementing a hash table such that actually getting a value pair is in ours, we just have both key and values in the array.
Yes. Intimately familiar with this, but now I can't remember.
Why would it not be cheaper? I mean,
You have to
Well,
be able
you
to
could-
enumerate over the dictionary.
Well,
so
Well,
it's-
and
you could implement a hash table where you still have to go through the key of that hash table to get the
So
value.
yeah, you're right. So you go to the right bucket. The bucket points to the
Yeah,
index and the entries. The entries have a structure.
Then you would basically lose all the benefits of it.
But your for each would also be slowing that way.
I don't.
What's the implementation of hash table when you have to look at the values of them? I mean, probably obvious direction.
It's when basically the dictionary only knows about the keys and then it points, the buckets point to the value.
Yeah. Okay, but how's that different? I mean, you have
Because
to
we
look at
have-
just the pointer.
Well, because then I see you saying if we had an array of keys, you still
Yeah,
enumerate
they
it
could
instead
have
of
put the
hash.
keys in the buckets and
I
the
see.
it doesn't really
Okay,
make
yeah.
any difference.
Like this should be
Even if you have a heap, it's still key value. So
this like executing this predicate in a loop should be no more or less efficient than a simple for each because it's doing the same logic. Now the thing is you can actually like we can also remove as part of this, but the actual enumeration should be exactly identical. Right.
And then I had a couple of notes further down. I looked through other collections that we have. Because we have it, there's a couple that did have it. So sorted list and sorted dictionary. I've never actually used either one myself.
But are you saying that we have the same concept with two different words on Yahoo?
No, sorry. It's two rows scrolls down. You see proposed API and then.
Was that what you said, the existing one?
Yeah,
Existing API?
existing is list and keep going. List
But
and
right
sorted.
there,
Oh,
right
yeah,
there.
yeah. So I
They're two
copied that.
different words. There's two different words for the same concept, correct?
Oh, you're right. Yes.
Okay.
You're right. Yeah.
Okay, no,
No,
I
you're
just, that struck me,
completely right.
and it sucks, but, you know, I don't know
Yes.
what we
Yeah,
do with
but
that.
list is far more commonly used than sorted.
So, fair enough, to remove all this.
Yeah, it's funny. I hated that. We didn't use it.
No, I mean, it's,
In fact, we have remove where also on hash set, but I guess it is also.
that's what we were just saying.
No, you have it only on sorted set here, but it's on sorted set and on hash set. That's all I'm saying.
What?
Remove where is on hashtag.
Yeah, you only listed sorted set, but it's also on hash set.
So,
And
if
then
hash set
remove
already
all
has
is-
remove where, then adding remove all is.
It seems like remove all is not used anywhere except Windows Forms tooltip.remove all with no arguments.
So clear.
System xlink xelement dot remove all with no arguments.
I'm going to edit.
I was gonna say remove all sounds like it doesn't fit predicate.
For some reason, I had the same idea though. Like I feel like we had remove all.
Well, we have it on list.
Yeah, I guess that's the only reason why I think of remove all. Which is, I mean, it's a core type, right? I mean, like one method on a core type, so in some way.
You should be nested off this one.
Yeah, this one is tough.
I would call it
Because-
remove where if we were at the beginning, but if we're not, remove all might
List
be
is
better.
such a poor type.
It is. I
didn't
think
even
I'd
know
have to.
I didn't even know that remove where exists.
Yeah, agree.
Well, I
Where
already
exists.
knew that sorted set exists, but
Can you describe the difference between sorted set, sorted list, and sorted diction?
Yes, I can actually, because I looked at this many times.
Sorted list is actually a diction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, sort of set
Of course.
up a lot of different ones.
Well, okay, yeah.
There's a little bit of legacy in it.
You think?
I think the revolves.
All right, so we are opting for remove all then, and should we have both overloads or just the one that takes key rate of pair? I honestly don't think we should have the one that takes just the key. It seems like
What
weird.
people are going to do is immediately index in the dictionary.
Yeah, there we go.
Can you explain?
So if all you have is predicate TP match, the inside the body, they're probably going to want to pull the value. So they're going to index into the dictionary, passing in TP, which also means that you have to be prepared for somebody to at least query the dictionary while this method's executed.
I don't understand why you think, and you may be right, I don't know data, why a predicate is almost surely going to require looking at the value.
Because maybe you only want to remove it if the value is even or something like that. Maybe you only want to remove, maybe your dictionary is social security number to person, and you only want to remove people who are, over a certain age or under a certain age. Like, you don't care about the key.
Okay, I'm sure the scenarios, I'm just saying, it's not obvious to me that there aren't scenarios where you need to just look at.
Let me put it differently. Like if you have the overload, like people will make the mistake by accident, and then defeats the whole point of the
Anybody
API.
who wants to delete just based off what the key is, they can write the key value pair one and then not hit the value.
Sure. Sounds good to me.
One other interesting thing that I want to drill in now is you'll need to keep the dictionary in a self-consistent state between iterations of this method. Which means you need to be prepared for, in the logic of the delegate, somebody to maybe not modify the dictionary, but at least clear it. Because maybe the two key, like maybe they only want to remove this key conditionally and some other keys.
Yeah, that's fine, yes, there would be no reason to have dictionary in a funny state doing the predicate.
Well, there would be.
But it would probably be much more efficient to write
Yeah.
where it can get in the
The
funny state.
efficient way to do this is as you're going along, when something gets removed, basically you're tracking where you're writing to, like where you're moving things down to, the last position, and the last key, and the next place to iterate. And so there's going to be some gaps as things get removed. There's going to still be some gaps in the list.
I don't, we're talking about in the predicate, it might be unsafe to do a read of the dictionary.
Yes.
But in my mind, it would just walk down the buckets,
Yes.
and for each one, it would return the key and value. And then if the answer is true, then it snips them out the buckets and changes the entries to an entry in the free list, and then carries on. I don't see how that would lead to reads. We don't need to talk about it.
Yeah, don't we allow?
It's not-
We don't allow gaps in the buckets.
The buckets can be null, the entries can be null, or they can be on the free list of entries.
I see. You would leave some. You actually, instead of query, first you could leave some sentence.
You would literally be doing removes, exactly like the remove method does.
So I think if you do this, I think it will not work. But you can leave some sentinel values and then modify that to basically recognize that there's sentinel value, so it keeps going. So you keep going and searching.
I'm not following.
What does sorted set do inside its predicate that you try to query back into the set? Or using the set. I hope no one's using the set.
Or no one considered it.
Okay.
But you can have a version just like a numerator when you use those rows. But yeah, I'm not following this at all.
So
You just walk through the bucket.
yeah. So basically, you walk through the buckets.
Yep.
And let's say you remove one.
Yep.
And then the algorithm that tries to, basically the buckets you can put to limit. Right.
Yes.
So if you have a call, the algorithm stops. Says, well, okay, there are no more values with
So
this count.
trying to think about it mentally, it goes to the bucket that points to the list of entries that have the same hash code, right?
Well, so I think we have several implementations of it.
That's what the dictionary is. Anyway, you take it off.
I may be thinking of the wrong implementation. If it's not moving anything around, which it sounds like it's not, then maybe it's fine.
Okay. Well, but yes, so I think we have two different implementations of dictionary.
hash table is different, that's for sure.
No, of dictionary.
Oh, really?
Because we changed at some point. And one is using a linked list and one is using basically skip, whatever it's called.
What's the other one then?
It may be that framework.
So I see how sorted stuff look around this by the way.
Yeah, they basically loop through and find all of them, and then they go through and remove
Yeah,
them one
they,
at a time.
So
they do the logic
oh.
from the very first.
They're
allocate
just
this.
saving, they're
Mhm.
saving their, they're just, if there's 1, 2, 3, they're only doing 3, only making the customer
Yeah.
look at less without.
And they're also calling their method remove where and not remove more.
Yeah.
But, so if we want the same safety guarantees, we would have to do something similar, or keep track of some.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. It cannot be kind of.
Maybe are they forced to recognize how they do it?
Well, you proposed it, so I assume that you do data allocation, no?
They also allow multiplication of the.
I'm going to put it up for trying.
There are a few weekends. Come on, you can do it.
I've got more interesting to do.
You have more interesting things to do than implement, I don't know.
I think it is quite fair to disallow that.
I'm
And
not
it's
going to
disallowed today in
I agree.
the loop thing. But I think that there are cases where querying the dictionary could be a use case and throwing it up case would not be very nice.
So, is it worth making one or both of the following notes? Ideally, it would be safe to read the dictionary in the predicate. And secondly, ideally, we would throw if someone modified the dictionary in the predicate.
But I would say the second one is not ideal. The second one is must have.
Okay, great.
Basically,
We could set a flag, like,
It's a good idea.
just a flag on the dictionary, which say it's no modification or
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. The problem is, it's another check in the incredibly carefully crafted code path for remove.
So you're saying this is a must?
well, I would
So
say
that has a cost.
ideally it will just work. The user doesn't have to worry. They can inside the predicate do whatever they want with the dictionary. If it doesn't work, we need to throw an exception there and you cannot do it. But not just like suddenly the hash table becomes invalid and
So people like Brian Adams have spent a lot of time crafting the code gen for things like remove. This adds another boolean, which may not in itself be very much, but who knows what the code gen will then do. So that's my worry about
Well,
it.
we could do the check. So there is an exception. It is safe in one case to mutate the dictionary inside the forge, and that is as soon as you mutate the dictionary, you call break and no longer execute any other forge generations. You could do the same thing here and say, we're not doing the check inside of remove or add, we're doing the check inside of the remove where infrastructure, and if that detects a change in the middle, like between two different iterations, at that point it's done.
Well, but here's another thing we could do cheaply is just check whether the count change. That would involve no new checks on the removes and adds. And honestly, if they mutate the dictionary without changing count,
I mean, that means you add a limit. Right?
Yeah.
No, but I don't see how we can avoid it because basically we're gonna be removing items. Well, in the user code, they can just read the dictionary. So all the read methods need to be resilient to the dictionary being
So-
in some weird state.
Instead of like the dictionary has version, which has ++ when you remove and add.
Yeah.
So it would just say save version to a local,
right,
call the predicate function,
right.
read version again. If they're different, then throw. So you need to save the last.
You're quite right. The version is on the dictionary, not the enumeration.
Right.
Okay, yes, please.
Yeah. So all you need to do is you need to just grab the version, and then if you've made another iteration and the version number has changed, they modify
But the version
during
will
that.
change when you go to that loop, right? And
No,
then-
the version will change when we have
We keep
finished.
it private. We'll change the version. Okay, here's the version we expect. Go around again. It's not what we expect.
Oh, you're saying
So
you
we
probably
need,
could change the version.
during the
again,
time
yeah,
that the
makes
loop
sense.
is running, we don't let the version change.
Yeah, that makes
It would
sense.
only change if they, from the predicate,
Yep.
called back into the dictionary and changed it.
So what was the other one? So this
Well,
one's
I
the
think there
reader?
are two questions too.
It's
We
safe.
need to-
Oh, sorry.
We need to be safe for removal inside that predicate, or we want to be, but also for
Yeah.
any other operation on the dictionary.
We need to be able to
Deterministically unsafe for life.
Like during the predicate, they shouldn't call remove because we're already removing.
But that's the check that we just discussed, which I agree with. I'm not sure whether it's necessary.
Well,
the one that is necessary is that all the other methods actually work inside the predicate.
Yeah, so we can't tell the difference between they called add and they called remove. Right now, the easy check is you have modified it in the predicate. We're done talking. Yeah. The hard check would be, oh, you added something else. I don't know how to do it.
Okay, does the indexer work inside the predicate?
It should, yes.
Yeah.
It should, and we need to...
I'm saying add and remove are the same, you've modified the dictionary. So modification is not allowed during the predicate, except for during the last run.
So what do you have for the agenda for next time?
Or we say
we don't have one, so we'll just keep
modification is not
going
allowed,
on.
we'll throw in the way back.
I have one question, but I guess I'll take it offline perspective. But you think you answered. But my question is, why did we get rid of the thread safety?
Because it's slow.
Why did we not call this remove before we moved?
Because that's
we
on
never
on-
called remove all.
thread safety in the hash
So
table.
everywhere else was aware.
Yeah, we never had...
We said list was more.
Link is more prevalent, and it's called where.
Yeah, like personally, I do like where because it makes more sense.
Remove all-
As Kathleen said, like if we were starting over from the beginning, like I don't think anyone was questioning that or disputing.
Alright.
So there's a reason why it's called removal. So we have a method, we had methods in our collections that they called read all. They would take a collection of things to remove. This one is a moral equivalent of this.
So list.remove all is used by 4% of NuGet and 5% of API port telemetry, and remove where is used by no one. So,
Well, it's also on sorted stuff.
and hash set. I mean, it's not no one, but it's less than 1% NuGet and less than 0.5% API port. So it's go with the name that people expect.
Well,
And we have
When
no.
we take a predicate, it would be where.
We have no evidence that anyone has ever called the one unsorted set.
Alright, so then I guess let's keep going then. So
Yay! I'm a fan of this.
holy shit.
Deja vu.
I'm a fan of this, and that's because apparently I can forecast my friends.
That is a little bit on the insane side.
Yeah.
Excuse me, let me check. Let me check whether my name.
Oh yes, I remember. We reviewed it, and then we wanted some expert in the space to come to them.
First off, does any of this even matter on x86?
For the most part, no. A little bit, yes, but for the most part, no.
Okay.
You mean x86 and x64 or specifically x64? Okay. I don't know the right word, so I think so. No. Yeah.
Because I know like Titanium had memory ordering instructions, but I've never seen them going through like the x86 instructions.
So we call it where now?
We call it left it all.
And leaving again? Are you upset now?
Okay.
Yeah, I see.
So what are we doing?
I think this one needs more. I mean, I'm kind of like on the. It seems like the API surface area is somehow disproportionate for the things it does. Like, maybe these are the kind of things that a hardware intrinsic should solve. Like, they say specialized instructions for specific architectures of good.
Well, these aren't. Look, this doesn't really belong with the processor intrinsic stuff. Like this is basically mapping the APIs that are inside of the C++ standard library, like whatever their threading classes are going to. But they do allow you per call site to do things like specify explicit memory ordering. They also say very clearly in the documentation you shouldn't, unless you really need it. Because for the most part, people just want a regular acquire release semantic, and that's it.
I agree. It's like it's making an API that is still relatively simple, and suddenly, boom, there's this explosion for.
There was kind of a heated discussion on these issues as to when we can, where there was at least one person who thought, yes, we're releasing the main thing.
So, Steve, you said that there are some scenarios where x86 would benefit from this.
I thought you meant x86 and x64.
Yeah. But is the general use case for this just? I mean, the general use case for this seems to be ARM, right?
Yeah, the general use case is the memory models enforced by all the interlocked functions is very expensive on them, and there are places where you use it and you don't actually need the heavy-handedness that comes with it. If you can if you can back off from that a bit and use a weaker memory model, you can get back some perf.
So I thought that's what Levi is going to ask. So on Intel, when do you get benefits, and from which of these members?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you, because I'll say again.
On Intel, which of these APIs actually can give you a benefit?
Sorry, I don't know if it's this issue or a separate issue, but there was a similar set of APIs for volatile, for example. So volatile taking a memory motor. Maybe that's a separate issue. But there, for example, if you were using volatile, but you actually wanted a stronger memory model, volatile only supports store, read, acquire, and store release. If you wanted sequential consistency with volatile, you could something like this to specify it, even on x64.
I'm not in principle opposed, but even the interlocked is somewhat simple today, and it seems like a massive acceleration in terms of API service.
My perspective, I don't know if it's deceptively simple or deceptively difficult. I don't know which way it goes, but most people that I think use interlock probably couldn't. It's very easy to get it wrong anytime you dive down below locks to interlocked or volatile or anything else. And so from my perspective, if the default is still what it is, and then there's another overload that allows you to further qualify it, that seems totally fine to me.
Yeah, give me overload.
Like if we were to use this inside our own.
I guess that's one data point, but to me, I use interlock to compare string to bunch and think I understand it. So
you're wrong.
The ability, but the ability to consult a value, make a decision, and then set the value optionally, that I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of the brain. The memory order thing, I'm going to have to read some more.
Maybe we should rename the parameter to feel free to shoot yourselves in the foot.
So regardless of the complexity, Steven makes a valid argument, which is that they're all overloads, right? They're effectively just one more. They don't appear like this, right? They just appear in IntelliSense as overloads of the existing methods. We don't extend the concept count. We just give them one more knob that they can interact with. I agree with Dan that I had no idea what the default is right now. I would have to read that up, and I also would have no idea what I could do with any of those things. But I guess that's the nature of the beast in
Am I
this case.
correct, Stephen, that when I was using interlock comparison and so on in the naive way, that I was correct to not worry about memory ordering and memory barriers and things like that? Memory guarantees?
The one you were getting was effectively the strongest one possible.
Right. So I think there is a distinction between people at my level of brain power that have a pretty good handle on what comparison does, and then the next level, which is memory order. I'm not saying that.
But also, I don't know your use case. Yeah, if you're talking about memory orderings around that particular call site, it was probably fine. But using compare exchange, it could very easily have been wrong in the broader scheme of the code base.
Yeah.
So one scenario where this could be useful is something like logging or request counts or something along those lines. Imagine that you're in the ASP.NET web server and a request comes in, you want to bump the request counter and then continue processing the request.
Oh, yeah, like a log ID or something.
Yeah, so
Very common
currently
use.
what you would do is interlock.add, or interlock.increment. But that's going to force a full memory barrier and a full, maybe even a full cache lock, I don't know, on the current thread, which means that you're temporarily pausing execution just in order to bump that counter.
Right, so there's a bias to safety and performance there. And if you want performance,
with these APIs, you could say something along the lines of up the counter, it doesn't have to be immediately visible to everybody, but on the current thread, like continue processing.
Well, but then if another thread bumps the counter, then you may get wrong counters.
I don't think so. I think it is still consistent that way. It's just like weirdly different.
Even?
Yeah, Levi's right.
Oh. Can you
What
be more
happens?
precise than weirdly deferred?
There's a difference between atomicity and ordering.
Yeah.
So the ordering here controls whether reads and writes can move above or below the operation as you know from other threads viewing what your thread is doing. So if I write 5 to X and then write 3 to Y, can other threads see the write to Y or the write to X? But the atomicity is if I increment X, can they see, or if I multiply X by 17, like can they see an intermediate state of the value? And so with these interlocked operations, you get the atomicity. When I do the compare exchange, like I'm getting that atomicity, but operations that are happening before or after don't necessarily need to happen in that order. Today with sequential consistency here, if I write to Y before the interlock compare exchange, and I write to Y after, like those can't move, as far as another thread viewing what's happening, those can't move above or below the compare exchange.
So sequential consistent could be called default or something.
Well, these terms are also used by C++ and the industry.
Yeah.
So this is just controlling what memory barriers are implied by the call to interlock.
And do these all boil down to a single CPU instruction, like for each member of the enum is a different CPU?
Yeah, they're generally prefixes on instructions. Although that's not true on ARM. I think on ARM there is like DMB is a sequentially consistent. I don't know the other ones.
Right. And that's why I asked earlier if x86 x64 would benefit from this because in general it's just a lock prefix and that's it. Itanium has some weirdness though.
This all makes total sense to me, and the thing I can't quite get over is I do agree with that point that the gentleman on the thread, which is it is a bit intimidating to hit dot at this point.
Well, but next to Steven's point, right, we're not adding new methods, they're just overloads. So the number of items you see in IntelliSense doesn't change, unless you actually select the method.
When I hit dot, I'm usually looking for the right overload more than the right method. I'm not like, I need something, I need to look, I need to figure out what it is. It's like compare exchange, paren. Ooh.
Right. No, that is a fair thing. I think in general, though, people will always gravitate towards the one with fewer arguments anyway. So I mean, it's the same with any other type that we have.
I can't remember what the alternative proposal was. It was something like interlock dot advanced dot blah. It's pretty good. No, I'm not.
Well, I mean, that's what we have done in the past, and we regret it every single time we did that.
What about another option is compare exchange order or something, but so compare exchange remains field.
Well, then it complicates the interlock plan. Then you have more members.
But that's actually how with my little brain.
It's way more in your face. If you do interlock dot and you're just presenting with add, compare, exchange, decrement, like the key operations you want to do. And then once you go into those, if you down, eventually you get to the longest overloads. Like it's sort of buried. Whereas if you have interlock dot and you see add, remove, decrement and ordered, like you're gonna go, oh, what's ordered? I should go play with that.
Right. And last question, that all makes sense. The memory barrier, we already have a memory barrier without parameters with sequential consistent.
Yes. So I know we all hate editor browse code, but is this an appropriate use case for it? Editor browse code or something.
We use it when people should never use something. and it's really there for some hacking kernel implication. I don't think we use it when it's a 0.1% usage case.
Does C# and VS for C# actually do anything with advanced? I thought that was just VB. Anything's changed?
I don't know about advanced. I don't know.
No, I think they never enabled that intelligence feature. So VB had this feature, editor browsable has 3 states. It has never, it has advanced and normal or something.
Do we use it, right?
And well, VB basically had like 2 tabs in IntelliSense, and you could either be on the tab all or the tab
Right.
whatever, common or something. And
We do the join stuff.
we never did. Well, yeah, we have. I mean, they are all over the place in the core APIs.
And then the feature in GS was implemented the following way. Once you clicked on the advanced tab, it would never switch back. So basically what happened is you start Visual Studio Experience, you see very clean APIs, but unfortunately on day 5 you cannot find something. You discover the tab, you click on it, and then you never ever go back to the same tab.
We had
you
this
wonder like why the
similar
framework
discussion
is
when-
complicated.
when I was asking, I wish we could get away from having so many overloads of string to span, and if there was any way to make the span things and show up to developers who were power developers. And the answer was we don't have to do that.
Well, that's a general problem. I mean, like Office did the same thing with the ribbon, right? Or before the ribbon, they had like I think it was Office '97
collapsible menus.
when they had the collapsible menus. Same thing. Like you hit this one day where you can't find something, you immediately go to settings and say show everything because you don't want to hunt things just because they're hidden. And like,
Yeah.
I think fundamentally that's just not a good way to do it. I think it's always better to like design things around scenarios and then put them in the right spot. This is one of those things where I'm like,
hide another reference to something.
No,
But I think the never, editor browsable never.
Yeah, never is
I
easy.
can imagine this one. It's like it's an
Yeah.
API that
It's plumbing
sure,
over.
if you want to call it and you know about it, call it. But otherwise, really you shouldn't.
So it looks like we use the advanced in immutable, all over component model type converter, a few others, random places.
Yeah, advanced is but the never.
I wouldn't put
Yeah,
it
never
around,
exists.
so that's the thing.
So I think we have 2 choices, or additional choice. We could just introduce a new class, interlock weak or something like this.
Weak interlock.
Weak interlock. Or we can just not do this feature. By the way,
it has merit. That's the thing.
okay, it has merit, but so what is the performance kit on ARM for some of these operations?
Steve, do you know?
Versus
Several X.
But it's ARM. Who cares?
it's already so.
No, I mean the question here is this something that like would we ever do a magic JIT feature for that, Steve?
Evoke may have shared some perf data towards the bottom of the thread.
Well, don't we already do things like guarantee right ordering whenever you call an object constructor on ARM? In order to like mimic the x86 model, don't we already do that?
Sorry, I was looking at Emo's scrolling. Emo, search for micro benchmarks, see if you can find them. Levi, what was the question?
So I know that in the past we tried mimicking x86 strong memory ordering model by saying if you use the new keyword or you new up an object, that there's an implicit memory barrier. Do we still do that?
We have some implicit memory barriers for things like writing into the GCD. And I believe those are still there.
Oh, so like when we modify the card table, stuff like that?
I believe so. I don't know the details.
Also, if we're, were you saying why do we even need to expose these? It seems very consistent with exposing SSE instructions, to expose these as well. For some of those SSE instructions, they're probably less or use case than these.
I think like the scenario is generally very similar. I think it's all like it will be a hot loop, right? You're not using this like throughout your or like contented areas, right?
Well,
where you're threading. Like
So
it should be.
I want to come back to what
Yeah.
Steve actually just said, because I'm connecting dots that maybe shouldn't be connected. So consider compare exchange of T, where T is a reference type, which it has to be. If that ref T is now pointing into the GCE, it sounds like we ignore the memory order that you pass in and just do the right barrier because, well, we might be modifying the card table.
I don't know the details. We'd have to ask Mayoni or Jan or something.
Okay. But I think that the reason I'm latching onto that is because it seems like an example of where this API like butts heads with how the CLR works, and we don't actually honor the parameter that we pass in.
If I remember correctly, I could be wrong. I don't think it was so much about the card table. I think it was more about the scenarios where this happens. You're doing like lazy initialization or something, and with the strong memory model from x86, if you get if you're not actually following the CLI, weak memory model. You still get things right because x86 makes things just sort of work. And so people had a lot of .NET code that was doing, lazy initialization wrong, and to sort of quote unquote make things just work on ARM, we added in memory barriers on sort of key points, like when publishing stuff, such that it would just sort of work correctly even if you weren't doing the right stuff as synchronization. But this is all fuzzy in my memory, so it'd be good to follow up.
Yeah, I can talk with Mayoni on that.
Would it be useful to be on?
I think this is something we should do. Like, I mean, there's a growing set of like hardware intrinsics which we already started to talk about last week, and we should. Like, I think this is one of those things where it's also unclear to me whether. Clearly the JIT has to do work to make those workable, right? This is not just us adding a few APIs, right? They have to be supported by the JIT. Which basically means that, if the JIT people don't buy into that entirely, then it doesn't really much matter whether we like the APIs or not.
Well, but again, this is the difference between us saying that the API is sound and someone saying that the feature is sound.
Right.
We can say that the API is sound, provided feature feasibility as justified by the runtime team.
The way that the C++ equivalent to these APIs works is that they say that the memory order that we pass in is a best effort, and they might do something stronger than what you specify, but they never do anything.
Yeah.
So we can have the same one.
That sounds like something to discuss with you.
Yeah. Mix it up, and we could even do something we wanted. That'd be funny.
We could have.
The problem with that would be if in the version where we introduce it, no matter what you pass with the pair exchange, we always execute as sequentially consistent, and then one day we figure out, we can make something else work, and then now you can observe the effect of that. Like, it's doing we will do stronger sometimes feels like it kind of defeats the purpose of the API. I mean, granted, it's all about race conditions.
You mean we will do weaker or something?
Well, weaker is not allowed.
Well, weaker than we are doing.
Oh yes, it's weaker.
Not weaker than they passed the
Well,
parameter.
that comes back to the question that I asked originally, which is the vast majority of people are going to be writing and testing this on x86, and now all of a sudden it tries running on ARM and writing my application network. I was using an intrinsic. Granted, you were calling it incorrectly, but you were never able to observe the improvement.
Just the simple existing forms, they won't have that.
I guess
Correct.
the fact that
It's rocket science of rocket science.
that x86 does not have the weak memory model that I think it would mean that you can't observe it on the x86 platform. So this is an API that's only useful for platforms that we don't have to test it.
I mean, you could run it inside emulator, and you make it detect these call signs.
Software is not
Processing second.
But again, I guess
But no one's going to do that.
if C++ says we may give you a stronger thing that you asked for, it's a precedent, but I don't know that we should add the API during a time when Jan and Mayo say that the only thing we can do here is the strongest one.
Well, they also lock their behavior too. Imagine that these go into like full framework or something, right? Like at that point, now there's something that's kind of everything.
And so the notion of, especially if it can't be done, with anything other than the strongest model, then I don't think that we would add the API because there would be no benefit. But if some of them, some of the time, would be weaker again. I didn't know anything.
That all makes sense, right?
Well, there was some controversy now, I mean, in the comment.
Who's asking for this feature, by the way?
I think somebody in the community. So this is what I wrote up. Anybody disagree with what I just wrote?
I mean, you could put them in System.ComponentModel.VersionConverter. I wouldn't, because you can never find it.
Yeah, well, the thing about the last line is like they're not really hardware intrinsics. Like if we add them, they properly belong on this type, not in the intrinsics namespace.
Well, they are hardware intrinsics, right? If you, mine the hardware intrinsic is CPU instruction, one-to-one.
Yeah, but that's a different.
This is also like if you look at the intrinsics that we're adding for SSC, SSC2, ADX, and what, like those are all specific sets of instructions for doing particular operations, and kind of eventually every platform ends up implementing those sets of operations. Whereas here, performing the same individual, very common operation has different instructions on every platform.
Right.
And so, if someone actually wanted to do this, everyone who did this would have to write an if, else if, else if, else if for the particular platform they were targeting. At which point, you end up having a wrapper API called interlock.compareExchange that does that if, else if, else if, else if for you.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is, if the both ARM and x86 support fast ways to do square root of a vector, we're not trying to abstract those into a single API.
Right. That's. I mean, we've said we will probably do this for some things where it makes sense, like what was it, bit counting or CRC32 or something, but not for like individual abstractions.
Well,
that would be instructions.
Right? Because right now stuff like that is on something called like SSC2, which is very
right. No, that's what I'm saying. I think they're not strictly speaking intrinsic as we designed them because they're not specific to CPU model, and we don't expect people to special case the CPU. They're abstractions over some things, but they're intrinsic in the sense that the JIT has to know about them, so we need to get buy-in that we can actually implement this across all architectures that we care about.
Just diverting. What is the next step for reviewing the intrinsic? I mean, it's going to be a major effort.
Yeah, so I sent out an email last week. So basically, the current state we're in is we need to meet with the Intel and the ARM folks. There was some discussion about with the API shape in general. So practically speaking, there were some usability issues because we basically said we will have one type per instruction architecture, which leads to these funky situations where, SSE2 versus SSE1, well, realistically, there's not really a difference, but usability sucks, and we said, we can probably address this with inheritance or some other mechanism.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then that's where we left it. Like, I haven't set up the meeting yet, but I think there will be, and it will probably go into the 3.0 time frame, right? So that's why it's not super urgent, but it's a major
where you want to send out the things that get comments before.
Right. But I mean, I would discuss them in the context of those, because if it seems like on ARM it's really attractive. I'm not sure on x86 or x64 you gain much.
Okay, you look at one more stepping step then.
So we have a few more.
It's not quite as exhausting. The ones lower at the bottom with more comments, probably didn't save it.
This was less exhausting than like when you were.
Whose fault was that?
That person left the room.
How about big split? How did that be?
So what is happening with this one here? Why didn't you look at this one? You haven't looked at remove all?
Didn't you color on this one?
You just didn't tag it.
No, this one is removed.
Yeah, this one is the individual one.
Did I even do it?
Apparently you are.
This is one we reviewed.
Yeah. Yeah, we reviewed this.
Yeah, never
that's
mind.
the same one. Why is that title? It wasn't removed.
I fucked it two times, but. Alright. Okay, let's ignore the hardware intrinsic stuff because we're interested in bucket of things.
You go back to
Tell me word first, Christoph.
It's something, if it has a, span in the name.
So then I have one of them.
You think it's going to be 5 in 30 minutes?
Well,
You need a point.
Component
Approved.
version converter.
general, when you see the question, what's the general use case for converter? I always think it's kind of like plumbing for like swing form stuff.
So realistically, there's two scenarios. One of them is just the property grid in itself, which many people use in their apps to just bind to arbitrary objects and have something happen. The other one is many people use it in their view model layer to convert between text inputs from the UI to something else. And that's what type converter is really good at, because it's a side effect of the property grid, right? Like
so it's like the pass pattern, it's like the two-string pattern, but better.
Yep. And so a good chunk of this stuff will already work. I mean, yeah, Christoph is really in love with component model because this whole thing is just this big, massive pile of functionality that is not super well layered, but they're used a lot.
That's not relevant to .NET Core. I wonder what this thing is.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. It is like, I mean, like any time you do some parsing from anything to like Ethernet has this concept of model binding, where you basically take a URL or JSON payload and then bind it somehow to an object.
We got rid of the type converter.
So you completely removed that entirely? Okay.
A long time ago.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how much value this particular thing adds. I mean, I don't really
thumbs up.
Well, I mean, how it's registered in the system might be worth discussing. Because what happens if somebody registered their own version converter only now overriding theirs?
I thought this one, do you register or you just explicitly have to call an API?
I think type descriptor does have a registration. So maybe I'm not finding it.
It does, and it basically supports both strings as well as type references.
Oh, thank you.
And there's also global registration.
I see.
Yeah, I seem to remember this. We must update. It's like a list.
Yeah, type descriptors on app provider. So what we would probably want is if somebody adds their own descriptor for version that they would override as.
There must be some logic, like who is the register.
Yeah.
We will just use the same logic.
Well, isn't the registration attribute on the type? You say my type converter is over there? Or do you do it on the converter and say I'm converter for this
Well,
type?
hopefully the logic is if somebody explicitly added their own big wins.
Well, I think there's a global static helper where you can register and it's
There is, yeah.
Yeah, the point is that, like if we automatically add this one,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
and then somebody explicitly adds their own one should win.
Yes.
Well, honestly, this is a full framework only problem. On core, I would be willing to say, yep, sorry, dude. We have the same idea.
Why is it for framework only problem?
Because a full framework, you have the in-place update problem. I think on core, I'm more willing to say, yep, we added this type support now, and if your crazy parser doesn't have the same semantics, then sorry, you're just broken now. Because I mean, if you register a parser for version number, like hopefully you parse the same set of version numbers. I mean, what's implementation going to be? Version.parse? I mean, I don't know what else you would do. Like, maybe it parses Brett's crazy wedding version, and then it says this is 3.8. I don't know.
It looks like the add provider method right now actually does let you overwrite the ones that ship in box like this. I see that one. Just from a rudimentary reading in this one, so we can calculate it.
I mean, honestly, given the API shape, and given how small it is, it's just one type, and given that it's in an area that we don't care that much, we're willing to just take it.
The question is who's gonna do the work?
He already has a PR open, actually.
Oh, he does it, yeah.
So he's already doing the work, so it's just... It's not one of those things where I'm like, yeah, finally. But somebody really played enough to give it a PR. Oh, it's some big deal. Let's start with no. Oh, that was the worst time. Oh yeah, I remember that discussion. Oh god, where we ended up. So it's this crazy API, right? Where when you have regex.split, you pass in effectively the input string, and then the count and the start at and blah blah blah, and then you can say how do you want to split this thing. The behavior that the API has today, like the one that doesn't take regex split options, already exists, and like the way it splits the strings is kind of logical, but not entirely.
So the regex represents the separator, is that correct?
It represents the thing you want to match. So effectively, everything else that is not matched by the regex is called a separator, I believe.
Oh, so it pulls out the things that match.
Yes. And then, so the problem is, now the question is if you say, so this is the thing that Jeremy brought up, right? So like the normal behavior of the split API is to give you back empty entries. And you kind of need that because you don't know otherwise that there was a delimiter at all involved, right? So this is like if you actually remove those guys here, you're losing data effectively. Like it's very hard to go from here to here. Because this basically tells you that, oh yeah, there's no delimiter before, there's no delimiter after. Now this information is gone.
Yes, right. But what I noted at the end of the post is that in my example I use a capture group, which means I do a bracket and then d plus and then a close bracket, which means this is just about capturing groups, but you can also use a splitter without the capturing group. Then all the examples would be completely different.
This is really straightforward for us to add as long as we're willing to potentially allocate the array on the outcome, right? Because we don't have to make changes to the way this class works.
I'm looking at the implementation of split here, and it does the match, and then if there's any matches, it then takes each chunk that is between the matches and sticks them in a list. And then there's this weird loop where it says add all match capture groups to the list, so it just adds them on the end. There's no explanation why it does that. Do you understand, Victor, like why that's done? Is that some weird sort of hidden feature of split?
I would need to take a look again.
I'm looking at line 112 and regex.split here.
Okay.
So what do you
Yeah,
say?
the thing is, I know we discussed that a few weeks ago, but Jeremy's point was my example, which uses a capturing group. If you don't use capturing groups, then the point is not really valid.
You mean if you don't use capturing groups, this API is unnecessary?
Yeah. So with my example, there's a pattern, like you always get the even and the odds, but this is only that only applies to capturing group examples. If you don't use those, then the results are in no systematic order.
I see.
On the old code. Yeah, it goes back to .NET Framework. Add all match capture groups to the list. What the documentation says.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, like I'm not feeling one way or the other really strongly.
I think I want to understand why it has become behavior.
So then, what was your question?
Why does it add capturing groups on the end? Like it seems well defined in my mind that it does the match and then it grabs you everything between the match. So like let's say the regex is basically semicolon, it would capture everything but the semicolon. But then having made that list, it then goes and adds all the actual captures to the end.
The captures are not added at the end; they are added between the start and the end.
Yeah, okay, that's true. Add all match. It's like a nested loop.
Yeah, and it starts by 1 because the first one is always the parent, the whole match.
The docs say capturing parentheses using any captured text is included in the resulting string array. For example, if you split the string plum-pair on a hyphen placed within capturing parentheses, the returned array includes the string element that contains the hyphen. So that's if you want to split and you want to get what the delimiters actually were.
Yeah, but that's not always the case. Yeah.
Okay, so that behavior makes sense to me, and the alternative desire makes sense also. I would thought the alternative is kind of what you normally want.
And the question is, if you don't have a capture rule, we could just say \d plus, right? Without the parentheses, right?
Then you don't have a problem, but you also don't get the capture. So this is not about not getting the captures anymore. This is about not getting the empty one.
Right, but the thing. So let's say you're doing this here, right?
Yep.
How do I know that this is not one of my values?
I don't think there's a way to know. It's a big thing.
Well, in this system there is, because they're clearly in between. Because you're guaranteed to always have a separator. It might be empty, but you know that the data that you receive is always the even numbers.
It would be helpful to have the pattern in this table. Victor, what's the pattern that you're using there?
What do you mean by that?
So, the
It's
pattern
/d.
is the sequences /d plus.
Yep.
Sorry, yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
So in the third row then, it's finding 0.356. It's taking ABC before that. It's
Yep.
doing 0.356. And then, well, the empty string at the end.
Yeah. So that means you always know the output you're getting is your values are always on even indices.
Right.
The separators are always at the odd ones, and they might be empty because there might not have been one. But the problem is, if we strip them, well, how the fuck do you know that this is not?
I'm not 100% sure that's true because I always get confused about this, but in .NET there's groups, captures, and matches, right? And they're in an inheritance hierarchy. And the bottom of that inheritance hierarchy is a .NET specific concept that other regular assemblies don't have.
Okay.
And I remember writing this down at some point. When we were looking at PCRE. And with one capturing group, you can have multiple matches. Very nice, but I can't remember.
So I think my question is, so if I use this string, this regex split method, passing regex split options, ignore empty entries. How do I use the output? How do I know what are valid numbers in my text now? Because now I get ABC and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so I have to run the regex again against the output. That would be very weird.
Why do you also get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? You would also get you would only get ABC, right?
Well, I mean, like in this example here, right? So if I say regex split option with ignore empty entries, then the output that I will get for your pattern, your input is this. So how do I know that ABC is not a valid output?
Well,
the other one is.
Yeah, but let's not talk about the pattern with the capturing groups. Let's talk about without capturing groups.
Yeah, but if let's say
because I think if you wanted to accomplish what you're looking for, you would not even use this split. You would just match and get the number out. I think the examples don't correspond to the actual scenario. Do you agree with me? If you wanted to basically just get the number without the ABC in front, you would not use split. You would just say match a number.
Yeah, of course. So the examples are not the best for this one. That's right. So maybe Imo, you could just open your editor and let's draft one example.
Well, and
yeah, I'm not entirely
it might
sure
be
what.
best to just take this offline and expand the reasoning. But looking at that loop that we put now, Victor, it adds the substring, and then it does a loop over all the groups in the match. So the hierarchy is capture, group, match, and I can never remember and so there could be more than one. I mean, there's a loop there. So your idea, that the evens would always be the splits is not correct.
Well, having said that, so I
do.
agree with Imo on one thing. It would be good to have a real scenario where we can see that this is actually useful, because I also find it a bit not intuitive why you would leave the delimiters.
I would like two real scenarios. So two questions.
Yeah.
One is real scenarios that would use this feature, and the other is real scenarios that could use the existing feature. with two captures, especially where this loop loops more than once. There's more than one group in each delimiter. I think it might be something like /d, and without the plus.
Because I imagine...
And then it would match each, it would then be like ABC 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, DEF. But it would have matched
Without spaces in between the intervals.
right, something like that.
I imagine, like, if we had an API, and I don't see it even with this proposal, which is, it works exactly like string.split, except instead of having to specify a literal separator, you can specify regex separator. But basically, it just gives you, it like completely removes the separators. This API, which kind of like leaves them, and the one that removes but only after, but not in front, this is kind of weird.
So what I'm specifying is the separator, right? Not the thing that I
Yeah.
want to match.
Yeah, I specify separator, but today in string.split, my separator has to be a literal. And I want to do exactly what string.split does, except it's not a literal, it's a regex. Then I think it would make sense to do.
No, but the thing with string split is, right? So if you do a string split on a comma, what you get back is everything but
Yeah.
commas. Versus this one will include the commas.
That's what I'm saying. This API or the modified API doesn't make sense to me.
Because
the
you
one that does make sense to me doesn't exist.
Yeah, I
Either
agree with
today
that.
or in the proposal.
Right.
Which is, I want to basically just split it using regex, not literals.
Right.
And I want to get only the values.
But if you want to use that API,
Right.
like the same like a string split, you just have to pass a pattern into it without capturing groups. Then you have the same behavior.
So Victor, I didn't actually try the actual code, but I just tried the regex tester. If you take the plus off the /b there, on ABC,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, DEF, you get ABC 1, 2, 3, DEF, which makes it even weirder. Like I now have no clue what the intended use case for.
If you don't get empty strings in between, I would expect to have empty strings in between.
Maybe I'd have to run the code to be sure, but the point is each of these is a group
Right?
in the match, and in here it adds one by one each group.
But
Yeah.
I think to me, like if you look at string split, right? String split because we don't give you back the separators, right?
Right.
Versus here we give you back the separators, which to me only makes sense if I can predict upfront at which indices the separators are, which by definition have to be the even
This
ones.
is my question in my mind. I don't
Like
understand
everything else is
and,
crazy.
And it's
Like,
not just documenting above, it's
Right.
actually put this into it.
Yeah, that's my point. If we just avoid talking about capturing groups, then everything is perfect.
And I'd love to know why that loop is there.
yeah, I still would like to see the example because even if you omit the parentheses, like if you omit the parentheses, what will actually happen?
If you omit the parentheses, then it's ABCDF.
Yeah.
No, I actually just tried it in the.
Oh, you're saying so the only reason we
Yeah.
return the separators is because we have the parentheses around them.
Yes.
Yeah. That's just a feature.
So
nothing more.
I just ran it
That is a
using
dumb
Triage.net, and there is in fact an empty string between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3.
Yeah, and that's the API that's the
Yeah.
proposal. I want to remove those empty strings because
Yeah.
you don't have to deal with those.
In that, I typed in exactly that case. And then the answer, so what I got back was ABC, 1, empty string, 2, empty string, 3, DEF.
I can't see that, but it's probably because I'm mixing up my groups, captures, and matches. No, I believe you.
No, it's really hard to see because what I had to do is I actually had to put dashes as a separator there because otherwise the new lines would have been collapsed altogether. Yeah, it's weird. But expecting, it means that there's going to be an odd number of results.
I didn't see how this could be used, but I totally
Yeah.
understand.
So that's interesting.
I was still guilty coming to this meeting because I actually enjoy it. The most meetings I don't actually enjoy.
You feel guilty to enjoy good things in your life.
Well, at work. It's not supposed to be happy.
It's like a puzzle. So Victor, if you can craft an example that doesn't use capture groups where removing empty entries is actually somewhat sensible, that makes
Yep.
sense. Which I think, if I think about it, if we don't use capture groups, it's the same as string split. In which case, I would agree omitting empty entries makes sense. But I would say as soon as you have a capture group and you omit empty entries, I don't know how you would use the output in any meaningful way.
Yeah, but the thing what Dan said is also valid. So if you have more than one capturing group in the pattern, you don't have the even and odds because, for example, you will get back 2 results for capturing groups if you have 2 captures in it.
Well, it might not be as simple as even or, but I'm pretty sure you can come up with a projection, right, where you know which one is which, right? No? I mean,
For
like,
simple patterns, yes, but not for complex ones.
And if as part of your research you could figure out why this loop exists, that would be good.
all right. Then let's table this until Victor has a better example, or
Yep.
we have more understanding. I mean, I know the post to the API. I just don't understand how to use it.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, that seems fine. Any objections with this API? It's just a fucking method that returns a bunch of flags in the metadata reader.
You can describe semantics now?
Well, this always
Wow,
exists.
it's
No.
such an awesome API.
Oh, they didn't never responded. So
Methods, semantics. Wow. I think that's like a holy grail of computer science. Describe semantics.
I
we
think
can
you
do
might
it.
be
We
might
can
be
do it in one
disappointed.
time.
No, I think you might be disappointed of what this is.
Are you still
Adder, getter, other, razor, remover, setter.
Oh, then probably we should name it from Get Semantics.
This shipped in system reflection. That ship has sailed.
Oh, shit.
If only would have reviewed APIs in .NET
We
Core
named
V1.
them enum with getter, setter, remover, razor, other.
I mean, honestly, that's how it's called in metadata, though.
Nice.
That's how ECMAC refers to this.
Sorry, I missed the issue. What was the
The
What
issue
is
was
vector events?
Uh,
No, because events have adder, remover. Properties have getter,
Fire.
setter. Fire's not.
yes, it exists. Only to be used if you shut it.
Oh, okay.
How many times have I heard that?
Yeah.
You don't know about it because it's in review.
And then there's other.
How do
So-
you get methods semantic attributes?
So think of this: if you look at metadata in the IL table for methods, there's a column called method semantics, which is a bunch of flags,
Right.
and that basically marks the method as I'm an adder, or I'm a remover, or I'm a.
Right. And is that used at runtime?
It is not used at runtime, but it is used by compilers and metadata tools to map methods back to. Well, I mean, it's a bit weird because the property table also basically points to the adder, but like if you're standing on the method, you can tell I need to omit this because it isn't
get
there.
underscore foo. The
Yep.
compiler needs to know that's not actually what it's doing.
No, so the
It's
name doesn't.
semantic
So the name
call
actually
to-
doesn't matter at all. What matters is another table that maps the method to the property.
Right.
But then the method itself has flags that says I'm a getter, I'm an adder. So if
Yeah.
you're just standing on the method,
I get it.
you don't have to go to the other table
Okay.
to say I
Okay.
can omit this
Right.
thing from IntelliSense.
Yeah,
or
like the
something.
string indexer actually has a completely custom name.
Yeah.
It doesn't follow the normal name.
Yeah.
Right. Awesome. Well, then it's an existing type and a method that exposes an existing concept using an existing
Yeah.
return value.
And-
Let's
and-
just add it.
I'm sure someone explained this, but why do we have the only reason it's public today is add method semantics? This is
This-
the discussion you just had, and why is it on add but not get? Is the question.
What do you mean?
Like literally the only place this method semantics
You're probably looking at the reflection APIs, right? Look at the metadata APIs.
I'm looking at metadata APIs, the metadata semantics attributes in num. It's
Yep.
literally only used in the whole of core effects in one place, which is add method semantics.
Yes. I mean, it's metadata APIs, right? So like, it's things on top, like
So
wasn't or other
this-
things use that.
And this is that's on metadata builder, actually.
Yeah. So he's basically proposing to add this method here, which would expose that.
Once you add semantics, you should be able to read it back.
Should it be called get metadata semantics?
Well, it's already on. It's everything here is metadata, right? Like that's.
Well, metadata builder apparently thought it was worth having metadata in the
And
name.
I don't think
I see.
metadata is a metadata. It doesn't have semantics. Semantics are like,
This stuff is really helping.
You're
All right.
right.
There's a
You're
classical-
technically right.
There's a classical metadata builder, and it has add method semantics.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying the name here is so messed up.
Now, metadata builder has add method semantics.
Yes.
So why? What's in here? Like why wouldn't this
Data,
Yeah.
by definition, has
Yeah.
no semantics.
Oh,
By
okay.
definition of
Right.
data
Right.
and
A
semantics.
system of comment. Right.
I like your shirt, by the way. That helps you.
Yeah.
And metadata, by definition of meta, is data.
Okay.
This is why they pay him the big bucks. I never understood why, but like that.
We spiked the topic.
We're gonna miss
All right.
you when you're gone, man.
Will we?
I'm gonna miss you when you're gone.
All right,
Don't
so
worry, I'm only gone temporarily.
Yeah, for weeks and weeks and weeks.
you might actually hire somebody else for your job.
Postcards, it's 2018.
Also, even if you have a good time and you come back and say, oh my god, I hate you.
All right, last API before we go for lunch.
So there's already compiler support for initializing a read-only byte from static data. What is being considered creative?
Exactly. That's what we discussed yesterday.
Yeah.
I'm under the impression that this feature doesn't yet work.
Which feature?
Initializing a span from the data section without a copy.
That actually already works today.
So Levi claims that it already works.
Yes.
I mean,
Looked
Jan
into
claims it
this,
doesn't.
and at least in some configuration that I had, it didn't yet work.
So these comments, by the way,
I mean, there are like,
before the feature was checked in to the compiler.
I mean, they're recent, right? They're from February, so they're.
And the feature wasn't checked in until like about this month.
So if we don't have this API,
yeah.
how does the feature work?
Because this feature doesn't actually record. This feature doesn't make a copy like the initialize array feature does. Initialize array basically says I'm instantiating an array, please populate it from the data segment. The compiler feature basically just calls load token or whatever, and then directly calls the span of two constructor that takes a pointer.
I know how this works, yes. Now that you say it.
Yeah.
The reason we need this API on array is the compiler has to use some public API to say, here's location of data section.
Yeah.
In case of span, we have a constructor that takes a byte star. The compiler just code. It doesn't need anything else. So
The JIT fixes up all of the addresses.
So then the question would be, do we still need this API given what I just said?
So I don't know if this API supports more advanced scenarios, such as the data is mostly static, except for maybe one or two elements. I don't know about that instead of compiler time. I know that we have special support for that somewhere. I don't know where it sits in.
I think he's saying the opposite. He's saying for arrays we already have it. Because they're not calling a constructor, and they're basically doing it.
But I wonder if the feature that last
This one,
checked in, like the other feature that we rely on, actually just negates the need for this.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is that there's no need to point at data section. Well, there is need, but we already have byte stars that is there.
What we need to understand is if there's any scenario that this API enables that the current compiler feature does not already fulfill.
So I just linked to a comment from Vladimir.
Yeah.
Pull up your browser, Emo.
Which one?
Sorry, I sent you a link on IAM in the Skype.
Oh. Yeah, no, I'm not in the meeting, so...
Can you summarize? We can't actually attack the link.
So it's Vladimir's PR that supports the compiler.
Yeah.
After some discussion, he wrote, okay, until this issue that we're looking at is resolved, we will not try optimizing cases where elements are larger than 1 byte.
Okay, so that's what it is. Well, like the thing about elements larger than 1 byte is because we couldn't figure out things like aliens, right?
I don't know what the reason is. But we don't do it for more than 1 byte.
If you search for, I think it links to it, so search for 24621 on here. It's probably backlinked. Yeah.
Alright, Levi, that probably answers my question.
The feature works.
The feature works if you use bytes.
Yes, only if you use bytes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's possible, but I was trying to work with something else.
Yeah, if you use char, for instance.
Okay, yeah.
I see.
And you were probably more interested in using chars with things you can recommend.
Maybe. Or ints. I like ints.
Well, because we have scenarios where we want to use it over int, but we can't right now. So what we're doing is a horrible thing where we're getting a span of byte and then reinterpret casting it as a span of byte. Right?
My favorite type is unassigned int.
So the only question is, why would we have such a crazy API, and why wouldn't we literally just say get read-only span, and then that's it? Like, the name seems very complicated.
This API does the envious fix-ups. That's why it's needed. It's one of the things it does.
What?
We can't. But I had this conversation in person with Vladimir a few months back. I remember it now. One of the reasons they didn't want to link directly to the data segment, the same trick we do span of byte, is because on non-little endian architectures, we can't just point at a data segment where everything has been emitted as little endian. So the idea is you need an untimed API such as this to fix everything up inside a local
Well,
comment.
what if they blasted both endianness data in the...
We did talk about that. I think they were concerned that they didn't want to bloat the size of the because the I think every single platform we went on today is little endian.
So effectively, they won't do it.
Yeah.
But then again, like, who cares? It's documented as part of the API.
No, but the problem is, if you have a DLL that's compiled today, taking advantage of this feature and then assume little endian, and tomorrow we announce it work for a big endian platform, your DLL, which is presumably your CPU, can't work on that platform.
No, I get that. All I'm saying is that, like, why do we need such a complicated name? Like, I mean, the other API is called initialize array.
Yeah.
And this one is called get read only span from template of t. I mean, it seems like, I mean, we should be able to just do it with, I mean, you just document as part of the API, we do onion fix-ups or whatever.
Ignoring the name, I'm just remembering why the API.
No, I think I understand why we need the API, given that the other one just takes a white star, we need something that takes a T star effectively, which we can't do in C#. And so,
why did you want to call it get?
I think it might just be a typo.
What? It's a typo.
I think that's what it
But
is.
you wanted to return the delegate.
No.
So like it's okay. So API wise, it should be on interop services, I suppose, wherever initialize array lives today, and it should be what? It should return a span, not take a span, I suppose, because you don't know the size. It should take a field handle, and then the only thing that we don't have is the name of the method, right? So what's the proposal?
So the only thing is, if we add it to an existing type, it doesn't work. That standard.
Well, that one I completely choose to ignore now. Like it should, I think it belongs here. Like I mean, yep, you.
Fine.
That is. We can.
Yeah, we're not gonna be adding any more things on this.
Like for anything that's runtime related, I think we're good now.
If we were, basically, it was before we shipped it on run, I would just add it to some memory extensions or memory mapping.
Yeah.
But now, given that we shipped, I guess it's fine.
All right. So let's see exactly.
You could call it something like.
I know it's not great, but okay. Any other proposals for the name? Otherwise, that's the name.
Give reference to static data. It returns a read-only
Jesus.
reference.
Get reference to static data.
Well,
And then
no,
it doesn't
this
return a read-only
API,
span, it returns a read-only ref.
this name is wrong because in case it's wrong anyway, then it doesn't just refer to this directly.
Well, it makes a copy and then it refers to the copy. But it refers to a usable form of the static data. For being precise.
Yeah, I think it is cool.
Why don't we call it create span?
Yeah, I like
Creates
that.
it, sort of.
Create span. I like that. Simple.
Or create span from
From, yeah,
Alright,
creates one
so-
or something. It's a factor.
Oh,
The thing is, even though it's copying the data, if you call it multiple times, it's going to give you the exact same span every single time.
So I assume that it would just allocate an array of the key.
Something like that.
Right.
probably. All right, guys. Closing the room.
Or we have a table.
I think the way that the array one's currently implemented is
Point.
they at JIT time they have like a